one. And we are recording with Miss Clare Lopez. And the reasons for as I told Claire beforehand, for the creepy dark lighting is, as I said in the update, I have a concussion and everything hurts right now. And this is the first podcast I've done in a week. And Claire is going to carry the show, whether she likes it or not. And I'm going to sit here and nod as she does my job. So, Ms. Lopez, please introduce yourself for all the new listeners.
Sure. Well, I really hope you feel better soon. That can't be fun. So take it easy. But I'll bring up two things today, maybe half and half of the show. The first thing, obviously, is the horrific, shooting of the school children and teachers inside that elementary school in Uvalde, Texas, yesterday. Last thing I've heard is that I think 19 children, these are elementary school, 8, 9, 10-year-old little kids were killed. And I think 2 adults at the school, perhaps both teachers. All the details are not quite out yet. But then an heroic off-duty border protection officer in the area responded, came to the school, did not even wait for backup, went charging into the school by himself and took out the shooter. So that is the one more, of the count, the body count.
Yeah.
You look at the photographs of these little kids that are starting to come out today on the news, and they're just the sweetest little faces, little kids. I mean, I'm a mother. Many of the, your listeners, Tommy, maybe parents. You can only imagine what those families are going through. Now, Uvalde turns out to be a very small town. It's only got a little more than 15,000 people in it. It's located sort of in the southwestern part of Texas. And many of the people with homes there do belong to border protection families.
Yeah.
Who serve maybe a little further south, actually on the border, but their homes are there. But in a town of that size, that small, that everybody knows everybody.
Yeah.
And this is just got to be, I mean, just heartbreaking. As a mother, I just can't even imagine.
Yeah.
But a few things, some comments that I've heard in different analyses on news shows, and that number one, we have absolutely got to turn our schools into hard targets. Right
Yeah.
now, they are the softest of soft targets. You've got security, armed security, crawling all over every sporting event, every concert event, all kinds of other events.
Yeah.
And schools, they're open invitations to those with malign intent who would do harm. You've got to have a single point of entry to these schools, locked. You've got to have at least one armed guard, be it retired former military, be it former or currently serving law enforcement, whatever, but trained, armed guard at that entrance, that single point of entry entrance. And I would also say that at least a couple or 3 of the staff, teaching and admin, whatever, of that school need to be well trained and concealed carry to avoid this. The third thing, I was just on another interview a moment ago before we started this one, and talking to those hosts on that particular program. By the way, that was Pastor Greg Young at Chosen Generation Radio, where I was. But we were talking about how in other places like Israel, for example, where the civilian population is under constant threat from, violent Islamic terrorists, from jihadis, the school kids are taught, if you can get out another doorway, get out and flee.
Yeah.
But if you cannot, if you're stuck in a room and you can't escape, do not go hiding under the desk. The Israeli children are taught immediately start throwing everything you can put your hands on at the assailant.
Yeah.
Your backpacks, your books, your cell phones, whatever comes to hand, just the entire classroom start throwing things at that assailant to disorient and put him off, his intent. American kids need to be taught that too. Anyway, those are some of the things that come to mind for me first, with regard to that horrific, terrible tragedy down there.
Yeah. And by the way, I'm looking down because the screen's bright. I'm not looking at my phone or something.
No, that's okay.
Yeah, no, I just realized that. Yeah, no, it's I mean, as always, once there's one of these shootings, everyone has the hot take, right? And they're normally pretty disgusting. This is why we need gun control, or this is why crazy liberals are gonna grab your guns. But I mean, even let's just say in a vacuum, they make all guns illegal tomorrow, which I'm totally against, which is totally impossible. But even if they did, there would still be what, like 500 million guns in the United States. So even if there are no more guns, just snap your fingers, everyone agrees, get rid of the Second Amendment, except for everyone that owns a gun. These would still occur. So at a certain point, is the only solution to make them a hard target with security? And I'm saying that in agreement with you, because I mean, I used to think about that all the time when I was at the University of Georgia, 2011 to 2013. I used to never walk through the center of campus during the middle of the day. And yeah, I'd always sit at the front of the classroom right near an exit, because I always just used to think like, man, I'm sitting in a room with 300 students. If someone comes in here, it's just going to be shooting fish in a barrel. But something like a college campus is a little different. I mean, you've got hundreds of buildings and 30,000 students spread out over acres. Do you think that there is a way to like effectively do this? Because I'm sure right after 9/11 they'd say, how can we possibly do this? And we did. We had the TSA for all of its flaws, and for the most part, you really probably can't sneak into an airport. So it can be done. Do you think that's a realistic thing that will happen? Or
It's absolutely a realistic thing, and it will happen if we, the people, the parents, demand it. Elections are coming up. Primaries are being held right now all over the country. Primaries in Texas actually were yesterday. They're being held in many other states around the country through the coming months of this year. Parents, American citizens, patriots, demand that those running for office, whether incumbents looking for another term or a new candidate looking to win office for the first time, maybe, demand that this be one of their primary issues: securing our children in our schools, instituting the measures, taking the measures that will secure those schools. I mean, there's no reason not to. The schools, the public schools around this country were bombarded with gazillions of dollars during the SARS-CoV-2 pandemic. And as I understand it, a lot of that money was not spent even now. And that of the money that was spent, who knows where it went? Teachers' unions, kind of powerful, but it must be demanded that kind of funding be given to schools for the express, labeled purpose, tagged purpose of hardening the schools against this kind of intrusion. The things that I talked about before, to make the schools a hard target and to provide security, armed security inside those schools. I think it's up to we, the people. It's up to us, we, the people.
Yeah.
To demand those things of our elected representatives. Yes.
Yeah. To kind of shift, because one thing I always bring up on here is election integrity. What was the election last week? I don't know if it's still ongoing, where like the day of, there's a bunch of glitches. They turned down people because there weren't enough ballots. And I think the counting might still be going on. Was it Pennsylvania or
you might be
Pittsburgh, or?
thinking of Pennsylvania. I don't know all the details about it. I myself live in Virginia. But the race that's still undecided is the primary race on the Republican side for senator, the Senate race from Virginia, where you've got a very, very razor thin close contest between Dave McCormick and the Turkish Muslim Mehmet Oz. And that counting apparently is still going on. And yes, Oz does hold Turkish citizenship, voted in Turkey, served his military duty in Turkey, and somehow has dual citizenship in the United States. Go figure.
It's a little head scratchy. Yeah, I don't know. To end, obviously, as I think anyone listening to this podcast can tell, I'm absolutely not 100% on the ball. What do you think about monkeypox, and what do you think about how? And maybe I'm spreading fake news. I don't know. I guess that's what this podcast is known for now. We bring you
No,
the
you're
best.
not.
We bring you the best of the fake news.
No.
But apparently last year, Bill Gates was doing publicly doing a tabletop exercise for an outbreak of
So I
monkeypox
mean,
that started on May 15th, 2022.
Yeah, people are doing tabletop exercises like this all the time.
Sure.
That's irrelevant.
Okay.
What matters is that monkeypox, number one, is endemic in Africa. The host population for monkeypox are animals, in particular rodents, not necessarily monkeys, but that in Africa, unfortunately, too often people come into direct contact, either maybe being bitten or otherwise, with wild animals. And that is how this particular pox is transferred to humans. There are many poxes in this particular family of orthopox viruses, including camelpox, smallpox, monkeypox. And they are typically they're characterized by the lesions on the skin, and also things like fever and general malaise and muscle aches and things like that. Monkeypox typically does not have a high mortality rate. But what appears to have happened in this particular case right now here in the West is that there were two gay pride raves held recently, one in the Canary Islands in Spain and the other in Berlin in Germany. And people came to those events from all over the world, including Africa. And by contact tracing, it appears that the cases of monkeypox can be traced back to one or the other, both. Maybe people could have attended both. They weren't at the same time. They were one after the other. Could have attended both of those and then come back to whatever home country they were from. But unfortunately, in particular, this particular monkeypox, according to the CDC and the World Health Organization, seems to be spread through gay sex. In short, that is what's happening with this. Now, on the positive side, as I've said, it is not very contagious at all. There has to be very close, basically skin to skin contact with an infected person for someone to catch this. Number two, again, as I've said, not a very high mortality rate. That's a good thing. And the third thing I'll say is that for anyone who's ever been vaccinated against smallpox, that very likely is protection against this monkeypox as well. They're related. And the reason that a smallpox vaccination, maybe even from years ago, likely is still effective is because this particular virus does not mutate very quickly, if at all. And so a vaccination, even from years ago for smallpox, which likewise does not mutate very much, um, likely endures. The antibody, response in the body will likely still be effective because these viruses just do not mutate very much or very quickly, in complete contrast, by the way, to the family of coronaviruses, which include common cold, influenza, and SARS-CoV-2. So deep breaths. This is not something that can cause a pandemic. It is not aerosolized into teeny tiny 0.1 micron size particles like the SARS-CoV-2. Again, very close, basically skin to skin contact, unless somebody absolutely sneezes flat out right in your face. You're not going to catch this. You're just not going to catch this. And if you've been vaccinated against smallpox in the past, you're probably okay.
And if it does turn into a pandemic, I have my army of misinformation doctors, and we'll combat the holy word of Fauci. You sent me a text the other day, and I have not been reading any text because my head feels like it's on fire. But I did
Oh,
look at the first line. No, don't feel bad for me. I'm an idiot. It was entirely self-inflicted. Alcohol and gravity. Do not feel bad for me. You said something about like China preparing for war or
right.
China preparations.
So yeah. So this is the story. On May 14, that would be just a couple of weeks ago. Here we're in 2022. A very high-level meeting was held in Beijing, China. Attending the meeting were senior officials of, in particular, the People's Liberation Army Military Command of Guangdong Province, which is that province of China on the east coast, the bulge part of China, if you can think of the geography there, south of Beijing. That's that province on the coast. So those officials were there, as well as Chinese Communist Party officials from Guangdong and from the Beijing area, of course, too. And the purpose of the meeting was to begin to establish procedures for moving China from a peacetime status to a wartime footing. The audio of this meeting was leaked out to the West. The audio is online. Translations are now being done by several different parties of that audio. It's not all done yet. It's very tedious, as you might imagine, but those translations are coming out. I believe that part one so far is what is out. But for those Mandarin speakers who've already perused or listened to the proceedings of this meeting in Mandarin, here are the objectives of that meeting among the CCP and the PLA. A surprise, well, maybe not so much a surprise anymore now, but military attack against Taiwan. The war footing is to begin taking place by next month, June. The attack against Taiwan is scheduled to be in October of this year. Yes, ahead of the November Chinese Communist Party Central Committee elections, where Xi Jinping, the current party leader, wants to be voted in for a third term. So before that, before our elections in November as well, by the way. So surprise military attack against Taiwan for October. And then the seizure of the entire first island chain of the archipelago that lies outside of, off the shore of the Chinese mainland. Mm-hmm. And that territory, which sometimes China would call within the 9 dash line, because that's the line they've drawn, China's drawn, to encompass all these areas it wants to claim. But that area would include islands, territory belonging to or claimed by Indonesia, Japan, Philippines, and Russia, in addition to China. And then finally, the third major goal of this preparation meeting was to develop plans to sweep all United States and allied naval vessels presence out of the South China Sea, out from within that first island chain within the 9 dash line in those places I just told you about. Two places have published about this, this meeting, this leaked audio recording of the meeting. Gateway Pundit did a very good and a lengthy one that was published on 16 May. It's called Audio Leaked of Chinese Military Meeting Discussing the Invasion of Taiwan and Defeat of Regional US Forces. And I'll just tell you a few of the things that Gateway Pundit reported in that article there that they were discussing at the meeting. Again, this is CCP and PLA discussing building a civilian military mobilization command and control system, establishing wartime procedures, preparing for wartime command and control, quote, smash Taiwan independence and ensure victory. This is another quote, in a decisive battle in the South China Sea. Guangdong province itself that I mentioned before, it alone, just that province, that one province of China, has been ordered to mobilize massive resources for the invasion of Taiwan, to include mustering 140,000 military personnel, 953 ships, 1,653 unmanned aircraft, that would be UAVs or drones. Other things like airport facilities, shipyards, excuse me, shipyards, by the way, in Guangdong province are being geared up to refit or retrofit civilian vessels,
I did see
merchant
that.
marine and
I
fishing
did read
vessels
that part. Yeah.
to carry naval armaments. Now, once any of those would use such naval armaments, the element of surprise would be gone. But in the first instance, that could be pretty devastating. So six shipyards there in Guangdong doing that. All kinds of other assets being readied. 64 10,000-ton roll-on, roll-off ships. These are the kind where you can roll tanks and armored vehicles onto and off of. So 64 of those, 10,000-ton size. Aircraft, trains, I mean, on and on. And then in addition, this is the last thing I'll mention, from the audio recording, and this is in the Gateway Pundit report. A political commissar, a major general from the Guangdong military region, spoke on the audio tape about commandeering all of Chinese assets and resources, both domestic and international. In other words, per the People's War concept. For example, using assets of its Belt and Road Initiative, which are all over the world. Chip manufacturing was mentioned specifically. Now that's important because for the United States and other places in the West too, but here for the United States, I think it's over 90% of all the microchips, transponders that we use to make all kinds of things from automobiles to cell phones. More than 90% of those come from Taiwan. So think about that. This was explicitly mentioned in the audio. And then I guess the last thing I'll say here is, I've got some notes I'm looking at. The explicit mention of sweeping the South China Sea free of US and other allied naval vessels explicitly imply, well, that's a contradiction in terms, isn't it? But explicitly means, that there would be direct naval conflict between US and other allied vessels. It's not just, Taiwan itself, South Korea, Japan, maybe Indonesia, other allied ships are there, UK ships are there, Canadian ships are there, and more. But that speaks to the intent and the expectation by the Chinese senior military command that there would be direct naval conflict with us, the United States, and this, group of other allied naval vessels. So that's what I wanted to mention to you and your listeners. I think that we do need to get this validated and corroborated, yes, and we are still waiting for the full translation from Mandarin into English. As I've said, that's a long and a kind of a tedious process, but it's coming out. Some of it is already online, but it seems to me that this is something that needs to be taken seriously. And although I have already sent this information to any number of former senior retired military, think tank people and others, the one and only person that I have seen speaking out, or maybe two, about this threat are Stephen Mosier on another interview program, and of course Gordon Chang, who is very much on top of all of these matters. But other than that, it's kind of been crickets, which is hard for me to understand. Of course, there's a lot else going on, as we've talked about here today.
So if they're going to sweep, that would mean a directly offensive. I mean, in all.
Yes, that is the gist of what they spoke about at this meeting. Yes.
So in all of my armchair military expertise, that would pretty much mean they're banking on playing chicken with the U.S. and just banking on us not, because if you attack our ships and you take us over, I mean, we're just going to use, to Biden's credit, and I pointed this out right at the beginning of his administration. I have no idea if it was Biden or overlap from Trump, whatever. It was, I think it's called the Pacific Deterrence Initiative, and it was like a triple layer of ground-based, short to medium range nuclear warheads, kind of buffering us in the South China Sea. I mean, if you sink an aircraft carrier, there's no other response but, okay, we're just going to go one up on you. We're not going to let you kind of, take a shit on us. It's pretty much they're playing chicken and banking on that we won't fire nukes.
It may well be that. Now, many will likely have heard President Biden during his trip these last few days to East Asia, when he maybe misspoke, maybe just blurted out the quiet part out loud. But in answer to a reporter's question about, if China were to attack Taiwan, I'm paraphrasing, but would the United States respond militarily? And President Biden answered with just one word: yes. He didn't expand on that. Yes. And for the next 24, 48 hours, probably to the present time, the White House has been absolutely frantically trying to walk that back, to say that nothing has changed in US policy of ambiguity. Well, there's not much ambiguity about that.
Yeah.
And that we stand by the Taiwan Relations Act, which defines the relationship between us and pledges the United States to provide whatever advanced cutting edge technology, weaponry, defensive weaponry that Taiwan needs, to provide that to them. And that's the official statement that's been coming out of the White House since that other statement by the president.
So is this just the manifestation of what is it, Thucydides' trap? Well, when there's a rising power, they will, like 19 out of 20 times in world history, like the rising power will eventually fall into conflict with the existing hegemon. Is that just what this is?
It may be. I know what you're talking about, the Thucydides trap. It certainly seems that the CCP is determined to provoke a military confrontation. From this meeting, there's no other analysis that can be taken from it, except that they fully intend to provoke a military confrontation, or, as you're kind of implying there, Tommy, that they would like rather to intimidate the United States and the rest to not put up a fight. Now, I think quite to the contrary, Taiwan most certainly will put up a fight, just as Ukraine is doing. And by the way, I mean, China has got to be watching what's going on in Ukraine. You know, the massive miscalculation by the Russians, who thought they could, you know, move in, take over the capital, decapitate the government, install a puppet, and be done, you know, and back home for their vodka in about a week. And that's not happened at all. They're not capable of taking the entire country by any stretch of the imagination. Terrible fighting going on still, of course, in the Donbass, and a very dangerous situation along the south, the coastal area of the Black Sea, Odessa being targeted. But point being that the Ukrainians, under the incredible leadership of their president, Volodymyr Zelensky, you know, have fought back very effectively, and with a military and weaponry that at the beginning of this invasion by Russia was not as advanced or plentiful or, you know, technologically cutting edge as what Taiwan has right now.
Yeah.
So China's got to be watching that, but they still want Taiwan, and they want the domination of that coastal area of the South China Sea so badly,
Yeah.
that they may be willing to risk all for it.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like a reverse Cuban Missile Crisis. It's like, how much do you really want this island? You know, like United States, how much do you really want Taiwan? I think best case, I mean, obviously best case scenario is none of this happens. But I think best case scenario would be just kind of, it would just be a Pacific version of what we're seeing right now. It'd be global sanctions and everybody dumping money and aid into Taiwan like they are Ukraine.
Well, I mean, the most important response would come from the immediate area, and that would be those nations which have naval vessels or fishing vessels, even,
yeah, because I mean,
in the South China Sea. And if they were attacked, what has to hold together is an immediate response, excuse me, from what we call the Quad. That would be India, Japan, Australia, the United States. But in addition, the neighboring countries, which, as I mentioned, are very much part of the targeting by the PLA, as I mentioned, you know, Japan, certainly, Indonesia, South Korea, Taiwan itself, of course. There has to be an immediate response from them, backed up by these other things. Gordon Chang spoke at the recent Rock the Red USA conference held in Greenville, South Carolina, a couple of weekends ago. And his advice, which is not immediate, but needs to happen, is, in a word, decoupling. He said, we've got to decouple our economies from dependence on China. I mean, if we still want to import children's toys and microwave ovens, okay, fine. But anything that is of any serious national security interest, to include things like pharmaceutical drugs, but anything else in that category as well, we need to find other sources, reliable, allied, friendly partner sources, if not bringing that kind of manufacturing right back home, which is the best alternative of all of them. So those are the responses, you know, that I think need to happen.
Well, this was a very optimistic podcast.
Not terribly, and I know we're over time for you, Tommy.
No,
so
yeah. My brain's gonna give out any second.
We can wrap it up here.
Well, Miss Lopez, thank you for carrying this podcast for me. Thank you for having me on Clarecast. And as always, I will put all the links to your stuff in the description. And thank you very much for bearing with my sluggish mind right now.
Thank you, and take care of yourself. Catch you next week.
I will. Thank you so much, Claire. Miss Clare Lopez. Go check her stuff out. Thank you.